Media Melanie Talks TV. I'm Melanie, and today I'm back to talk about Poker Face Season 2 on Peacock. We're halfway through the season, folks. There are 12 episodes in total. This is episode 6, and it's called Sloppy Joseph. The naming of this episode could not be any smarter. Love the double entendre here because the Sloppy Joe can refer to Charlie serving up Sloppy Joes as a lunch lady. And by the way, every time I think of Sloppy Joes and lunch ladies, probably dating myself here, but I start singing the Sloppy Joe song or the lunch lady song by Adam Sandler. Sloppy Joe, sloppy Joe. Pardon my singing. I had to get that off my chest because it was literally in my head during the entire time I was watching this episode. But on the other side of the coin, the Sloppy Joseph also refers to the very public and bloody demise of Joseph the Gerbil, the class pet. What's funny too about this episode is the fact that they say in production, and I've worked in production for years, working with kids and animals is the hardest. And while a gerbil, yeah, it's not a dog or a cat and maybe doesn't require as much, it's still an animal and we still had lots of kids. So I think they pulled this off flawlessly. I love the portrayal of the other kids in the classroom who were all kind of played as fools when compared to Elijah and Stephanie. I think the teacher was also great, and she's played by Adrienne Moore, who was also a cast member in Orange is the New Black, along with Natasha Lyonne. Nice to see these two on our screens again. And speaking of guest stars, I will get into my guest star and episode rankings at the end of this video, so be sure to stick around for that. Before we get more into this review of Poker Face Episode 6, please be sure to like and subscribe. I just finished covering The Handmaid's Tale final season, and we'll be doing a video on the finale for Your Friends and Neighbors this week. That's on Apple TV+. And then looking ahead to next month, I'll be covering The Buccaneers on Apple TV+. And in July, The Summer I Turned Pretty and Dexter Resurrection. I've also got The Institute, which is an adaptation of a Stephen King book, on my radar. That's coming soon to MGM+. I don't know the release date yet, but I will keep talking about it until we get more information. And by the way, if you haven't watched From on MGM+, this would be a perfect opportunity for you to sign up, binge the first 2 seasons of From, and then catch The Institute. You're welcome. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty and my thoughts and reactions on this episode of Poker Face. Good Buddy is back, voiced by Steve Buscemi, and I really can't wait to see if we actually get to lay our eyes on Steve Buscemi this season, or if he will just remain this voice and companion for Charlie as she continues on her quest of finding new things to do and traveling across the country. They talk a little bit about escapism and the fact that Charlie has to sign this honor pledge for the school that she's going to be working at, and he's like, hey, don't sign that, and then starts talking about government conspiracies. So I'm starting to think perhaps he's going to be caught up in some sort of conspiracy, and then Charlie is going to have to, of course, hop into the rescue and help him either get out of whatever problem he's got himself into or solve some sort of case, maybe in relation to a conspiracy. And we've got 6 episodes left, so there's definitely still plenty of time for that. Speaking of other guest stars in this episode, we also have JB, who is the janitor and Elijah's dad, played by David Krumholtz. And actually, he's in a couple of episodes of The Studio this season on Apple TV+. I did not get a review video up on that, but I really loved the first season. It was a little bit showy with all of the celebrities, really frantic score that kind of kept the pace moving, but I really enjoyed it. We've got Stephanie, played by Eva Jade Halford, and let me tell you what a promising and talented young actress. She could not have played this sociopath any better, from the looks on her face to the delivery of her lines, even just her physical being and the way that she presents herself. 10 out of 10. Dr. Ham is played by Margot Martindale, and quick question, what's up with all the ham references? We had Amber/Hamber back in episode 1, and now we have a Dr. Ham, and there were a couple of one-liners about that, and I keep wondering, are they planting the seed for a John Hamm cameo at some point? Yes, I mentioned I'm covering Your Friends and Neighbors, big fan of John Hamm. What's up with all the ham references? Are we going to get into some sort of pigginess somewhere? Maybe it's just a coincidence. I don't know, but I did find it odd that there were 2 very succinct references to ham within this season so far. Maybe it's nothing, just thought I'd point it out. So we meet Stephanie Pierce. She is an elementary school overachiever, a complete sociopath, and the way they open this episode to set the table for this character, one of those fill-in sheets that says, "Hi, my name is Stephanie and I love to achieve." This Stephanie, we learned that her parents are actually the owners of this Beaver's Corner casino, which I found interesting because, of course, Charlie started out her first job in a casino. Is there going to be some sort of circling back or callback to Charlie working in the casino? Because at the end of this episode, Stephanie gives Charlie that gold star with a note on the back that said, "When I grow up, I'm going to find you." Is it possible that we will see a flash forward at some point and a grown-up Stephanie coming after an aged Charlie? It seems pretty unlikely that that would happen, but it does leave the door open for something. I mean, who knows how many seasons Poker Face is going to go? Maybe that could be something they circle back to once the series is ending, or hey, maybe it's nothing and the casino is just a coincidence. But I would have liked to have met Stephanie's parents to find out who is responsible for raising this little demon in pigtails. Just everything about her was so well done. From that visual in her pink dress with the gerbil blood on her face, looking up how to murder a boy's self-esteem, blackmailing. I mean, this girl is not very old and she's already got quite a few tricks up her sleeve. I am going to hate to see the type of adult she grows into. And again, we may never end up finding out, such as the nature of an anthology type of TV show. I mean, we could find out with the Poker Face formula. I am so glad that Elijah got welcomed back to his class with open arms because let's face it, his dad, JB, and Charlie knew that there was some sort of tampering that went on. And of course, Charlie, using her gift, was able to put the pieces together as she does and come to the conclusion that Stephanie did, in fact, lead to Joseph the Gerbil's death. And how over the top was it for her to make that card saying, "Oh, sorry that you were murdered"? Unbelievable. And the braggadociousness of it all when she's skipping around, "Oh, it's lovely to be on top," and then giving that friendship bracelet to the principal to signify basically that she's enslaved and that Stephanie owned her. Unreal. I loved at the end when Charlie put that bracelet back on her hand. And I really did feel like Charlie won until that whole gold star incident. Now I wonder, oh, Charlie, you better be watching your back in, I don't know, 15 to 20 years. Also, how did Stephanie get so smart? We know that she had access to the keys because of the whole blackmail scheme, and she was able to go in and alter that box, which would make sure that Joseph did not fall and got hammered and died in front of everybody. She was also trying to embarrass him with that slideshow, and first of all, when it said copyright Stephanie Pierce at the bottom of it, I just about died laughing. And that was another clue that allowed Charlie to kind of start solving this case. And in this episode, we actually saw Charlie 12 minutes in. I've been tracking this. It's been 19 minutes in the last couple of episodes, but also this episode was only 43 minutes. So relative to the longer episodes, we're still seeing her about a quarter, almost halfway into the episode. I just thought the gerbil of it all was really fun. Seeing Charlie wheeling in that RIP Joseph cake, the teacher saying that Joseph was okay and putting a little bandage on him, and then putting him back in the gerbil cage, and then the gerbils start going at it. Unbelievable comedy there. And the fact that this is all taking place in a school and the principal ends up telling Charlie to go meet her in the second stall, we do have to suspend quite a bit of disbelief, I think, here, for the fact that Stephanie is able to be spying and this omniscient child who knows where all the adults are and knows exactly what to do in order to get what she wants and blackmail people. I mean, what are the actual odds of her showing up in that stall and successfully spying on them? Of course, it doesn't really matter because Charlie does end up winning in the long run, but anytime there's a conversation like that in a bathroom, I just think it adds this extra level of humor, and this was definitely one of those cases. And really a big theme in this episode is the gold stars of it all and how incentivized Stephanie is to get gold stars. And when the other kids start giving all their gold stars to Elijah and she starts screaming, "This is socialism," unbelievable. She is just so good as this unhinged child. She was almost giving me a little bit of like Wednesday Jenna Ortega type of vibes. And to be giving off that strength of acting at such a young age, again, I really can't wait to see where she goes. And I definitely think she's a young actress to keep our eyes on. And Stephanie does not quit. Even at the end here, she's trying to take the petty cash out of the box. Of course, she has access to the keys, and she plants it in Elijah's dad's coat. Get out of here. Poor JB, working so hard to make sure his kid can go to a good school, gonna be framed by Stephanie. I'm so glad that Charlie was able to get that on video, because there would have been nothing worse than Elijah's dad going down for any sort of crime and losing his job over this. I mean, when he showed up in that tie over his uniform to watch his son's talent show, what a great dad. And even at the end, they were kind of going through the superlatives, best this, best that, best dad, and then they flashed to him, giving him a new magic wand. Loved that. But what really allows Charlie to end up winning is holding over Stephanie's head that she will send the video she has to all of the elite boarding schools. And obviously, Stephanie is an achiever. She likes achieving. We saw that in the first few moments of the show. So that type of threat is really what is going to hopefully prevent her from pulling these type of antics again. I think for me, though, really one of the top moments in the show was actually watching Joseph die. And yeah, it's really grim and morbid watching blood splatter from a rodent all over the crowd. And there's another slight moment of suspension of disbelief, because it was visually impactful to see this blood smearing all over the audience. But I also don't think that a gerbil actually has that volume of blood in order to create that type of blood spatter. I mean, hey, I'm no Dexter Morgan, I'm no blood spatter analyst over here, but I think it was probably more blood than a gerbil actually has, and I was fine for that because we kind of needed that impact. And the teacher throwing up in the trash can after it happened, and then with the cake, when Charlie cuts into it and it looks like it's bleeding, I mean, just the comedy of Poker Face is done on so many different levels and different ways, and each episode is so different from one another, and I love how they execute it in every single one of their cases. So yeah, overall, I think this episode was very well done. I think for an episode that didn't actually have a human murder and they went more for the animal side of things, it was still very compelling because of the story of the main character here, Stephanie. And again, I really just want to give props to that actress for knocking this one out of the park, which leads me into my guest star rankings here for season 2 so far. That said, Cynthia Erivo, still number 1. I just can't picture her bumping off of that number 1 slot, mainly because she did play 5 characters, and yeah, some of them were better than others and got more screen time, but overall, to be able to play those 5 characters, she deserves the top slot for me. Number 2, Katie Holmes. Number 3, Giancarlo Esposito. I'm still keeping these 3 on top because I just really loved the first 3 episodes of the season, and I think they all did a really great job. That said, I am putting Eva Jade Halford, who played Stephanie in this episode, at number 4. That is going to bump down Kumail Nanjiani, who played Gator Joe, down to number 5. Simon Rex is number 6. He was from Hometown Hero and played the washed-up pitcher. Then I've got Simon Helford at 7, who again, I think is more of a co-star than a guest star, but I do need to put him on the list because I think he's a fantastic character. BJ Novak is number 8. Loved his acid-induced little cartoon moment there back in episode 5. Same with Carol Kane. She was stellar in episode 5, and she's my number 9, and that puts Richard Kind at number 10 with Rhea Perlman at 11. In terms of my episode ranking so far this season, number 1, Hometown Hero. That earned my top slot last week. Just loved the baseball of it all and the references to an incident that actually happened here in San Diego where I live. I thought that was a lot of fun. Number 2, The Game's Afoot. I still just really love the Cynthia Erivo of it all. Number 3, Last Looks. I can't not keep that in my top 3. I just loved all of the funeral content and Katie Holmes. I think that episode was phenomenal. But number 4, I'm going to put Sloppy Joseph. And really, all of my 1 through 4s are so closely ranked. They all deserve major props. That said, Whack-A-Mole is now number 5, and number 6, The Taste of Human Blood. And if I'm guessing, like I said last week, I do think The Taste of Human Blood will end up ranking 12 for me this season. It would take a lot for another episode to put itself below that at this point, and it wasn't an awful episode by any stretch. Kumail Nanjiani was really great. I think Gabby Hoffman was good, but there were just some elements of it that weren't my favorite. All the potty humor and really the absurd Florida of it all was just a little bit over the top for me. So those are my rankings. What about yours? I would love if you drop in the comments your guest star rankings and episode rankings for Poker Face Season 2 so far. And I will be back again next week for episode 7, which is called One Last Job. And if you're looking for some other TV Talk content, like I said, I dropped my review of the Handmaid's Tale series finale. I'll be here for the season 1 finale of Your Friends and Neighbors with John Hamm coming later this week. And then looking ahead, The Buccaneers, Dexter Resurrection, and The Summer I Turned Pretty, while also keeping The Institute on my radar. I do hope that you go ahead, like this video, and subscribe to Media Melanie Talks TV. I just really appreciate everybody being here and watching my videos. I'm so passionate about television and being able to come here and talk about it with everybody. So for everybody who's liked, commented, shared, subscribed, just want to share my gratitude to you. So thank you so much. And I'll be back again soon with more TV talk. Media Melanie, clicking off.